The gym in Las Vegas was the kind of cold that seeped into your bones. Not the good kind of cold. The kind that reminded you exactly where you stood, exactly how small you were. Miguel Santiago rubbed his palms together as he stood at center court. He had flown 14 hours, slept on an airport bench, and walked to this facility because he did not even have the money for a cab. He had dreamed of this room for years. But standing there, under the bright white lights, he felt something he did not expect: silence. Heavy, judgmental. 5 NBA scouts sat behind a long metal table, arms crossed, clipboards raised like shields. They were not studying him. They were dissecting him, every step he took, every breath, every bounce of the basketball. One of the scouts leaned over to whisper to another. The whisper was quiet, but not quiet enough. "Is that the Filipino kid they mentioned?" "Yeah, the tiny one." The scouts smirked. One actually shook his head in amusement. Miguel heard it all. His grip tightened on the ball, but he forced himself to breathe. The head scout finally spoke. He did not bother to look up at first. "Height," Miguel swallowed. 5'8". That made the scout raise his eyes. Slowly, deliberately, he scanned Miguel from shoes to shoulders, stopping long enough for everyone to feel the disrespect in the room. 5'8", in the NBA. "Kid, be serious." A ripple of chuckles moved across the table. Someone scribbled on a clipboard. Someone else pretended to stifle a laugh. Another scout leaned forward, his voice louder, less filtered. "Look, Filipino guards are quick, we know that. But quick is not enough here. This is not some street court in Manila. This is the league." The insult hit Miguel harder than any screen, any shove, any elbow he had ever taken. He opened his mouth to speak, but another voice cut through the air before he could form a single word. "Next drill. Put the short one on defense. I want to see what he can even do." The tall prospect who stepped forward was at least 6'5". Broad shoulders, long wingspan, a projected first-round pick. He looked down, literally down, at Miguel and chuckled. "You sure about this? I do not want to break you." The scouts laughed again. One of them even pulled out his phone like he expected this to be a comedy show. Miguel did not reply. He did not smile. He did not blink. He simply dropped lower into his defensive stance, low enough that his fingertips brushed the hardwood. Low enough that the tall prospect had to adjust his footwork. Low enough to show that height might be a measurement. But heart is something else entirely. The whistle had not even blown yet, and the room already felt different. Miguel could not control the voices in the room, but he could control what happened next. And what happened next was going to change everything. The tall prospect swung the ball to his left. Miguel slid with him instantly, low and controlled. He switched the ball to his right and tried again. Miguel matched him step for step, close enough to feel the frustration rising off the taller player. Then it happened all at once. A flash of movement, strip, steal, sprint, layup off the glass, swish. The gym went so quiet Miguel could hear the echo of his own footsteps. "Run it again," the head scout said, his voice suddenly more serious. They reset. Second rep. Another steal. Another fast break. Third rep. Miguel cut off the drive before it even began. Anticipation perfect. Fourth rep. The tall prospect lost the ball trying to back him down, slamming his palm against the floor in frustration. The scouts shifted in their seats, the smirks gone. A few leaned forward, suddenly paying attention. Miguel kept moving like he was weightless, sharp steps. Fast hands, eyes reading every intention before it formed. By the fifth rep, the tall prospect looked exhausted, almost embarrassed. But when the final whistle blew, the head scout simply shook his head. "You are skilled. I will give you that. But size is size. We cannot build around a guy who will get blocked by shadows." The sentence was cold, matter of fact, final. Miguel felt something inside him tighten. Not anger, not sadness, just a quiet kind of pain. He nodded once. "Thank you for the opportunity, sir." He picked up his bag, walked toward the exit, and for the first time that day, the scouts did not laugh. They just watched him leave. His dream was cracked, but the fire inside him was only getting hotter. 3 weeks later, Miguel was back in Quezon City, standing on the same weather-beaten court he had grown up on. The place hadn't changed, no nets, faded lines, a rim bent like a broken smile, hanging on even when it probably shouldn't. But this was home. Every evening, neighborhood kids gathered around the court, watching Miguel train like a man possessed. They whispered among themselves. Some recorded him on old phones. Others just stared, amazed at how fast he moved. His little cousin Elena tugged on his shirt one night. "Miggy, are you still going to America?" Miguel kept dribbling, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on the ground. "I'm not done," he said, "not even close." And he meant every word. The next 7 months became a blur of obsession. Not routine. Obsession. He woke up at 5 a.m. long before the sun. He lifted weights that were almost too heavy for him, building explosive power in legs that people always said were too short. He borrowed footwork drills from soccer players, from boxers, from anyone whose movement impressed him. He studied Muggsy Bogues and Avery Bradley until their defensive habits felt like muscle memory. He watched NBA film until sunrise, rewinding the same plays over and over until he understood angles other players never saw. Miguel was not training just to improve. He was training to erase every doubt ever thrown at him. And people started noticing. Kids posted clips of him dropping defenders in local games. Someone uploaded a video of him outrunning 4 players on a fast break. Another showed him stealing the ball 3 times in one possession. Within weeks, Miguel was all over Filipino TikTok. Comments flooded in. "Who is this guy? Sign him already. Future PBA guard." Soon, coaches noticed too. Then one night, while Miguel was eating dinner at home, his phone buzzed. He answered without thinking. "Miguel, this is Coach De Vera from the PBA." Miguel sat up straight. "I have seen your games," the coach continued. "I want you at our training camp, tomorrow." Miguel froze. Tomorrow. Not next week. Not next month, tomorrow. He swallowed hard. "I'll be there." He did not hesitate. He couldn't. This was the moment he had been breaking himself for. Training camp was brutal. From the very first whistle, Miguel was the smallest player there, and everyone knew it. The bigger guards targeted him every chance they got. They shoved him off screens. They posted him up with their backs like walls. Some even tried to embarrass him in front of the coaches, calling for isolation plays just to bully him. But every shove sharpened him. Every cheap shot pushed him deeper into focus. Every mismatch made him faster, smarter, tougher. When a 6'4" forward tried to back him down, Miguel slipped under his arms and stripped the ball. When a bigger guard tried to force him into the paint, Miguel turned, redirected, and beat him to the spot. When someone thought they could outrun him, Miguel turned the drill into a sprint and left them behind day after day, rep after rep. He refused to break. By the end of camp, something unexpected happened. The same players who mocked him on day 1 started whispering his name with respect. Miguel led the entire camp in steals. He had the fastest sprint times. And during defensive drills, no one wanted him guarding them, because they knew they would lose the ball. Coach De Vera blew his whistle on the final day, and walked straight toward him. "Congratulations," he said. "You earned your jersey." Miguel looked down at the number stitched across his chest. He ran his thumb over the fabric, feeling the weight of everything it represented. He was not in the NBA yet. But he had stepped onto the path, and for the first time, it felt real. He was close. Closer than ever. Game 14 of the season felt like any other night. Crowd buzzing, lights bright, the air thick with adrenaline. But everything changed in the second quarter. The starting point guard landed awkwardly on an opponent's foot. He grabbed his ankle, grimacing, unable to stand. Coach De Vera did not even glance at the veteran backups. He looked straight at Miguel. "You're up." Miguel's heart thudded once. Then he stepped onto the court. The stadium barely reacted. To them, he was just the small rookie who barely got minutes. But 10 seconds later, everything changed. On the first defensive possession, Miguel darted between 2 screens, poked the ball loose, and snatched it before the other guard even understood what happened. Steal. Fast break. Layup. The crowd murmured. Who was that? On the next possession, he intercepted a lazy pass and hit his teammate with a no-look dime that made the bench jump up. Then, he split 2 defenders and threaded a bounce pass so clean it looked impossible. Then a pull-up jumper from the elbow. Pure. The net barely moved. Every play was faster than the last, sharper. More electric. Miguel turned a 12-point deficit into a 1-point lead in under 6 minutes. The arena erupted. Commentators stumbled over his name, trying to catch up with the highlight reel unfolding in real time. His teammates stared at him like they had just discovered a new weapon. By the end of the game, Miguel had delivered 17 points, 8 assists, 6 steals, and one entire arena shouting his name like he was a superstar. When he left the court, fans reached out to touch his jersey. Kids held up their phones. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the rookie who had taken over the game. That night, someone uploaded a montage of his 6 minutes of chaos. By morning, it had 4 million views. Miguel was no longer a question mark. He was a problem. 3 days later, Miguel was eating dinner with his family, rice, fried chicken, and the kind of quiet that comes after a long day. His body was tired, but his mind was still replaying the game, the crowd, the cheers. Then his phone buzzed. An unknown number, American country code. He wiped his hands and answered. "Hello, is this Miguel Santiago?" He straightened in his seat. "This is him. This is Coach Reynolds from the NBA G League. We saw your game. We saw the tape. We want you in Los Angeles next week." Miguel froze. The room seemed to tilt. His breath caught halfway. He had to put the phone down because his hands were shaking too hard to hold it. His mother looked worried. His father glanced up from his plate. Elena, who had been doing homework beside him, rushed over. "What happened? Who was that?" Miguel could barely get the words out. "They want me, the G League, Los Angeles, next week." Elena threw her arms around him in a tight hug. "You did it, Kuya. You really did it." Miguel felt the sting in his eyes as he hugged her back. He looked at his family, the small house, the beat-up basketball on the floor. He shook his head gently. "No," he said. "We did it." 1 week later, Miguel pushed open the doors of the Las Vegas training facility. The same glossy floors. The same echo of bouncing balls. The same cold air that once made him feel small. And there they were. The same scouts. The same long metal table. The same head scout who had laughed at him months before. Miguel's chest tightened. But this time, it was not fear. It was resolve. "Height check," the head scout said, eyes glued to his clipboard, voice bored, routine, dismissive, just like before. Miguel stepped forward. 5'8". The pen stopped moving. The scout's hand froze. He lifted his eyes slowly, like he was afraid he already knew the answer. His face paled. "You," he whispered. "You are the kid from before." Miguel nodded once, calm, steady, no anger in his voice. "Yes, sir. I'm back." The room went silent. Every player stopped dribbling. Every scout turned. Everyone felt the weight of that moment. The drill started. But this time, Miguel moved like a storm faster, sharper, more controlled than he had ever been. Steals, perfect reads, lightning-quick drives, passes that looked impossible. The energy in the gym shifted. Whispers turned into shock. Shock turned into respect. And when the final whistle blew, something happened Miguel had never imagined. Applause. Soft at first, then louder, growing until it filled the entire gym. Not pity, not surprise. Respect. The head scout approached him slowly, his expression humbled. "I was wrong," he said, voice low. "You're a hell of a player." Miguel did not smile in triumph. He did not gloat. He did not throw the words back at him. He simply extended his hand. "Thank you, sir." And in that simple act, Miguel showed that true greatness is not only in how you rise, but how you return. 6 months later, Miguel stepped onto an NBA court for the first time. Jersey on, cameras flashing, his family watching from the stands. He closed his eyes for a moment. The mockery, the rejection, the nights training alone, all of it had led here. When young Filipino players later asked him how he made it, his answer was always the same. "They measured my height. They never measured my heart."